Hey everyone, so I had some people comment on some of my videos talking about the Underground Railroad and stating that they didn't realize that it wasn't underground, nor was it a train system that was operated on the railroads. So this is where our education system has totally failed us in Black Canadian and Black American history. So I'm going to give you some lessons today on the Underground Railroad, what some of the people who worked with escaped slaves were actually called, and what their jobs were. So let's get into it. It's time to get schooled. So here's a crash course in history. Make sure to ask your teachers for more in-depth information. The Underground Railroad was formed in the early 19th century, and it is believed that over 100,000 enslaved people escaped using the Underground Railroad. Now, it wasn't actually underground, but because of its secretive and clandestine nature, it was actually considered underground by the people who used it, because if they were caught, it was illegal and they could be jailed and or killed. Now, the term railroad was used because it was an emerging form of transportation in the early 19th century, and its supporters would use secret code to communicate with each other, just the same way enslaved people who were escaping were using spiritual songs to communicate. Homes where enslaved people were able to find a refuge on their journeys were called stations or depots. The owners of those homes were called station masters, and the people who were responsible for moving enslaved people from one home to another were called conductors. One of the last legs of the journeys for fleeing from the United States for enslaved people was crossing near Fort Erie in Niagara. So up until 1850, it was actually relatively low risk for enslaved people to find freedom in free states. But with the passing of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, all of that changed. Enslaved people who were caught in the States could be re-enslaved even if they were free beforehand. Their papers could be destroyed and they could be re-enslaved. People who were caught aiding and abetting enslaved people would risk fines up to $1,000 and 6 months of jail time. And they would actually be encouraged and threatened to assist slave catchers. And these people were provided with significant bounties to catch enslaved people and return them to their owners. Even with threats looming over their head, this did not stop the sympathizers who wanted to aid those escaping slavery from the United States. And those include Black and white abolitionists, Native Americans, Religious Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers and Congregationalists. And for those of you who don't know, the first recorded call for the abolition of slavery came in 1688 from the Quaker Society in Pennsylvania. Now, if you want to continue learning more about Black Canadian history and have more in our schools, go check out my Linktree. There's a GoFundMe page to fund more Canadian Black history in schools.